Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That's Conrad, I'm Jack, and this is a Footy 5. Both of us in the studio.
Back at home.
It's a miracle.
For a short minute.
Exactly. Week 9, we had no review for Week 8, and we had no preview for Week 9.
We had a review. It was sans audio. We had some technical
Yeah. So it was
100% my fault.
Could have posted it. Well, you would have seen him going. I would have been as informational as usual.
Well, as a result, you see our records were
100% and 0% at the same time.
Yes.
No losses.
my best week yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
A previous week.
Yeah, interesting. Neither of us have gone 3-0 in our usual weeks, but we'll see if we can go 1-0 with our 90% review, 1% preview in today's. We're going to go chronologically by the games that happened.
As they happened.
Exactly. It was a great weekend, honestly. There's a lot of good games, a lot of highly contested ones.
A lot of controversy.
Especially VAR. It's the name of the game, honestly. And fortunately for Everton and West Ham, didn't kick off the weekend with VAR controversy, and Everton will be happy with that and on their end. And we'll with them.
It was a good match for Everton. West Ham just didn't show up.
Yeah.
They just did not look interested. Two brilliant pieces. Bernard's goal was absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
That ball was glued to his foot.
Yeah.
And then Sigurdsson with the late screamer curled in the upper corner.
I think those really do a good job of representing the quality that exists at Everton, and it just has been so sparse this season. And obviously the win took them from 18th up to 13th. Just shows you the density that currently exists in the table, and it just means that their season isn't over by any means. But these are two sides who I expect to be battling. They have a lot of talent between them, and positionally they'll be striving for the same spot. And I think that this is a big win for Everton, almost a 6-pointer of sorts in that mid-table battle.
Mid-table, sure.
Yeah.
Well, both of these clubs seem to have the same problem around consistency, right? Hammers look great one week and then completely disengaged, and then Everton just disappear for long stretches, long stretches.
Yeah, I mean, 2 great goals for Bernard with that magnificent dribbling and the long-range strike from Sigurdsson. And, I mean, Haller did a great job of describing it for West Ham. They were just bad everywhere.
They were just off. They were terrible.
It was bad.
Straight up unacceptable in his words.
Yeah, and they need to improve. They have a lot of talent. They're like Everton. They need to begin to translate that into more positive results. This is good for Rocco Silva as well, for the Everton boss, because he's going to have less pressure.
A little bit less heat, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and that's a big thing for him. And they're taking on Brighton away.
Next.
West
Ham travel. Or no, they're home to Sheffield United.
And speaking of Brighton, they took on Aston Villa, and unfortunate to come away with a 2-1 loss. I think the defining part of this game was that double yellow card for Moy.
Early, 35th minute.
Both of them were poor challenges. And at this point,
one was a slowing down. The first one was a slowing down of a free kick, which is a stupid yellow to take at any point. Second one was taking down Grealish.
And that's 30 minutes into the game. You're slowing down a free kick and a yellow card. That's a frustrating thing if you're Brighton there. And I think that they were up 1-0 at that point, and that was pretty defining in the game that you were going to be up against it away from home the entire time. VAR, again, striking, and it nearly stole more points from Aston Villa.
If you're a Villa fan at this point, you're just like, we're cursed. They were up they were down 1-0. They equalize. No, they don't. And then luckily enough, Grealish.
Great finish from Grealish. That's a great finish from Grealish. It was really just he slid the ball in and it managed to slide into the goal. But great build-up play overall from Aston Villa. I think that the next slide says 1 back-to-back game. It's the first time since May 2015. That's a big deal. I mean, they're starting to get some form, starting to get some points on the board. And that's important.
They've got good chemistry in the side. I mean, the ball from Grealish into Target for Target's first Premier League goal to clinch the game, to win the game for him was fantastic. Villa moving up to 11th on 11 points, 2 points above Brighton, 5 positions up, Brighton in 16th. But Villa have a tough away to City next. Meanwhile, Brighton will be home to Everton. So that Brighton-Everton match will be interesting. Yeah. City, I think, is probably going to be too much for Villa, but
don't know what to expect in that match for Brighton and Everton. And a bit of a dull one.
Kind of a clunker. Neither team really taking advantage.
You can't really have 10 great games a weekend.
No,
you got to have 1 or 2 that are kind of unfortunately.
But
bad.
This was a tale of 2 perspectives, really. Bournemouth not happy This from Peter Russler at The Athletic. This is my favorite statement. The lack of creativity was concerning, especially against a team who shipped goals for fun.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, there were different expectations. You're at home for Bournemouth. You want to get those 3 points.
Playing against the bottom 3 side that's not been playing very well outside of the City win.
Exactly, and still plagued with injuries. And I think that it is a bit of a poor result for Bournemouth. And for Norwich, still a huge season to go, so you're not stressed at all about your future in the league. And you'll take these points when you can get them.
Happy with the clean sheet.
Exactly, very happy with the clean sheet is how they're going to be. And away from home, getting a point when you're a newly promoted side, especially against a team that's been in the Premier League for several years.
For a couple of years, yeah.
Bournemouth, it's not a bad result at all. And I think that they showcased some stability, and they were able to get a good result for them that can have some building blocks going into the next couple matches for them.
But Krul back, which was great for them, able to help them keep the clean sheet for Norwich, that is. Then Bournemouth move up to 9th place, 12 points. Norwich, 7 points, 19th place. Bournemouth travel away to Watford next. Watford still looking for that elusive first win. We'll get to them here in a minute. Norwich will be home to Man United next.
That'll be a tough result for them, especially because United have gotten. I think their result was pretty good for them, but we'll obviously talk about them a little later on. But another, I would say, good result. Chelsea, 3 points.
It is Newcastle.
Not the prettiest result. You would probably want to say maybe get a couple goals,
pile up some goals in that
get some strikers in form against a team like Newcastle. But at the end of the day, you struggled a bit, and you got the 3 points. You kept the clean sheet. One more.
The first half was ugly. Abraham unlucky to not get that header in. It goes off the crossbar. That was in the second half. Pulisic coming on. We got a Pulisic watch here, but Marcos Alonso did get the goal off of the assist from Pulisic, build-up play from Callum Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic. They looked good together. Goals remain a concern. File this under water is wet for Newcastle United. Yeah. They're just look. They lost. It's not a surprise. They lost so much of their goal-scoring potential in those 2 players that they sold off in the transfer window in the summer. But Pulisic did come on. He had 26 minutes, played well. Lampard had a lot of good things to say about him. But we are obligated to talk about Pulisic because we're Americans following proper football.
I mean, honestly, it's going to take a little while for him to get embedded in. Expectations should be lower for him. And he's shown bright spots. He hasn't shown I don't think that he's ever shown in his career direct goal-scoring creativity, but he's always been pretty good on the ball, pretty good creating for his teammates. He's just been a pretty good player.
Just turned 21.
He just turned 21. There's no rush for his development. There's no rush to get him involved in one of the biggest clubs in the world. I think he has the potential to get there. I think he's definitely going to get there. Probably towards the end of this season, he'll probably be a first-teamer if he continues to improve and continues on this trajectory. So I think there's no reason to be concerned. And Lampard, you can probably tell, is probably pretty frustrated that the Americans are saying.
Well, I mean, his point here is good. He's like, it's the fee, the fact that he's struggling in that the entire U.S. men's national team. So they're coming off of a bad loss to a Canadian team that they hadn't lost to in 34 years. Yeah. Pulisic was subbed off in the 60th minute, clearly frustrated with Greg Berhalter, the U.S. men's national team coach. So it was great for him to get meaningful time in this match and he had a chance. Dubravka denied him, but he did, prove positive in the winner for Marcos Alonso.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, Newcastle got to try and bounce back and take it on Wolves at home. That's another tough result. But I mean, at the same time, what game in the league is not going to be difficult?
Yeah, they are all grinders at this point. This has been. I don't know that I've seen anything as unpredictable as this season has been, and it's not just trying to defend how poorly my picks have gone, but it has been very, very unpredictable. I even mentioned it this morning on the pre-match show.
Oh yeah, it's been incredible. This season. And Chelsea, meanwhile, they're going away to Burnley, who are coming off of a 2-1 loss to Leicester, which we'll talk about on the very next slide.
Chelsea up to 4th now on 17. Newcastle 18th with 8 points.
Yeah, exactly. 2-1 Leicester over Burnley, and again, the big 3-letter word, VAR.
This was bad. I mean, it was late. Sean Dyche clearly upset. Up the clarets here. It's clearly this was bad. They were robbed, right? This is as bad as Villa being robbed early on in the season with that goal. I mean,
it was brutal, honestly.
But Leicester outplayed declared clearly throughout, they were still bad. I mean, this is Roger's point. It's nice to get 3 points when you suck, right? And
simple way of saying that, and I mean, going back to the VAR controversy, Johnny Evans had an own goal. He claimed he was tripped by Chris Wood. In the end, they said, yes, you were tripped by Chris Wood, even though it looked like he kind of just rolled his ankle on the grass and fell over.
There was no way he was going to get to that. No way.
Yeah. It was debatable contact. It was a debate whether or not the ball was like already in the back of the net by the time he would have been able to clear that one out.
But there's a lot of inconsistency in that play because in that call. Because if you look at today's match, Liverpool and United, there's clearly a foul in the build-up to the goal that United score, but they ignore it. Whereas today's was much more clear. This was no way that was meaningful in the.
I think that what we've seen from VAR is that if the referee sees it and has a decision on it, it's not going to be changed. If the referee doesn't see it, then VAR can make a call. So the issue with the Liverpool game, as we'll probably talk about even more when we get to that section, is Martin Atkinson was right there. He saw Origi get hit from the back. Decided not that it was not a foul, and then VAR can't really say, oh well, we're going to re-referee this game because that's not their job.
It's hard.
In the Leicester-Burnley game, I think it's more of an argument that they didn't see that foul and that VAR could make a judgment on it. And we go back to the Villa game from earlier. Their first equalizer, which was disallowed, the referee didn't really see that mix-up where I forget who it was. The striker
one of the defenders,
for Villa actually put his arm over the shoulder
of
as they were jumping up, and that was the foul in the end. The referee didn't see that, so VAR said, "We see this. We're going to call a foul." I think
it's so hard.
I think there's a bit of consistency in the fact that they will not re-referee the game, but it's difficult to watch when there are very clear mistakes made that are not going to be redone because the referee saw it and made a decision.
I mean, it's early yet. It's only week 9.
Only 9 weeks into this new system.
But it needs help.
It does.
It desperately needs help.
I mean, even more VAR controversy in the next game, Spurs, Watford.
Watford happy to take a point here. Should have had the win
happy.
In 2 different instances. On the penalty that wasn't a penalty on Dele Alli. That one's debatable. And even when the goal, and when it's called a goal, on the board in the stadium, they call it no goal. So the fans were confused.
They were so ready to disallow that goal from the history that Spurs have had with VAR in the past couple of years. But the Watford will feel very unlucky in this game. There was a potential foul call on Deulofeu right here that was not called.
Quique Sanchez Flores, very clear in his statement.
You be the judge.
And he was right.
Yeah, I mean,
we watched this.
You can't really see in this image right here, but there is contact in the box.
Vertonghen clearly hooks him.
You could make an argument that he moves into the contact. There's contact in the box. It should be a penalty. It was not called. Then later in the game, Dele Alli has that potential handball that he brings forward, and then he ends up finishing off with the equalizer. Debate over whether or not that should have been disallowed. And ultimately, that was the no-goal controversy because it was a bit of a mess. And there are such high tempers that have been flaring about this that whenever there's any sort of mistake, there's a lot of upset fans when there's a mistake made.
It's got to be the hashtag of the week for sure.
But
again, Spurs
was bad. I mean, they got away with a point, and it was a lucky point at that. And
they're in trouble.
If they play anywhere similar to the way they played against Liverpool away in their next match, they will be very, very disappointed with how that turns out. And
that's a Sunday match, yes.
Yeah, and that is. And Watford, on the other hand, they're taking on Bournemouth at home. You want to probably try and improve a bit more. We say that Watford's the worst team in the league, but they go on and they draw against Spurs and draw against Arsenal. So maybe they do have
still
some
Ashford looking for that. They got 4 points, rooted to the bottom of the table, but only 3 behind Norwich City. So, meanwhile, Pochettino's team up to 7th place on 12 points. I think they're going to be gutted in the winter window, and I don't know what they're going to be able to bring in. I don't know. They're puzzling to me. Meanwhile, Wolves home to Southampton at the Molineux, a 1-1 draw. Yet another circumstance where 2 times they had to. actually, this is an interesting hat trick for Jimenez, where 3 VAR calls on 3 goals of his, one leading to a penalty that he converted. The previous 2 in the first half ruled out, one on a handball and one on offsides by Cotrone. So correctly called, but again, one of those or 2 of those are good.
Yeah.
They're running away with this match. Should have had the full 3 points in this match.
And they'll feel disappointed in that. They've been creating chances, and they were just marginally away from getting them. Handball, in terms of VAR, that's the most clear rule that they have. And I think they need to try and extend that rule to more, to clear it up with fans. Because when a fan sees if the ball touches the hand of an offensive player and they score directly off of it, it's no goal.
Intentional or not.
Intentional or not, it's clear. It's black and white. Did you touch the hand? Yes. All right. It sucks for an offensive player. But
you saw that with Mane today in the match.
But ultimately, it clears up any sort of confusion, and it means that you can't be frustrated with that, and you have to accept the way things are. And they need to be able to extend that to other rules, so that way there is no gray area. The gray area right now is so wide that it's coming up in so many matches.
Well, they try to clear that up by saying clear and obvious, but they're just going with the match referee.
Yeah.
They're not overturning the match referee.
Yeah, and I think there's sometimes a bit of a fear of overturning the match referee, but this was one of the better examples of VAR being used, I would say.
Yeah, no, they were both good calls, for sure.
And so this is it's a bit of a stain on the game in a way, VAR. It does make it feel a little more robotic, a little less pure.
Well, it takes a lot of the emotion of the fans out of it.
Every time you celebrate, you have to wonder.
Like, they're going to call this one back?
Exactly.
So I hope it doesn't kill stadium atmospheres.
Hopefully no.
Because that's one of the great draws for these matches, is these places are cauldrons. They're fantastic. Meanwhile, Ings, again, this is now his 4th goal in 4 matches, I think. But all 25 goals, he's a poacher, I suppose is what they're trying to say here.
Yeah.
Premier League's tweet on the Fox in the Box. But he's proved to be doing very, very well for Southampton thus far, transferring from Liverpool. So, good on him.
And
meanwhile, Manchester City taking on Palace, winning 2-0. Looking at their team sheet.
Those are not center backs. They started with 0 center backs in that game.
2 center backs starting on the bench.
Yeah.
The 18-year-old and Stones.
Yeah. And Stones had to get warmed up early on because of a Fernandinho scare.
Yep.
Didn't have to come on in the end. But City just showed the flexibility that they have. I don't think it matters who they play in defense. Obviously, you don't want Fernandinho and Rodri to be your starting center back duo forever. But what we saw is that when you have 2 guys who are silky on the ball, comfortable on the ball, they can really dominate. They can really kind of move play around really fluidly, really well.
It's a prototypical 4-6-2 lineup.
It was very interesting.
No, 2-6-2. Sorry,
yeah, they were illegally playing 2 extra players, but
2-6-2.
I mean, Jesus.
Math is not my strong suit.
Jesus having a strong 50th goal, good header, and then fantastic teamwork. That's prototypical City is the way they Sterling just lifts the ball over the defenders.
Oh, the Sterling pass was, and then the Silva finish was absolutely. It was perfect.
That's what they trained for every day. Palace did well. They held out for the entire game except for those 3-minute chunk where
they scored 2 quick goals, and you cannot. I mean, there was a tweet, I didn't put it in here, of this is what happens when you stop to eat for 2 minutes. City scored 2 quick goals. They go to sleep for just a second, and all of a sudden 2 goals are in. Meanwhile, Ederson was spectacular, denied Benteke, and just had 2 fantastic late saves to keep the clean sheet and to keep the points, full 3 to City. I have expressed lack of faith in Hodgson and this Palace side, and I've been proven wrong. Even though they did lose here, Hodgson has them playing well. And he, his statements here, he's very proud of how they're playing and how they're growing and how they're coming together. But look, you can't, even with City playing 6 midfielders, you can't go to sleep for just a second on these guys. They will cut you to pieces.
Exactly. And that was what we saw. And Palace had a good result outside those 3 minutes you mentioned. And they'll be happy, I think. They didn't have a repeat of that 3-2 win that the Etihad last season. But I think they'll say that was a good performance. They kept fighting against one of the best teams in world football. and they won't be too devastated with that loss.
City, again, second place, 6 points behind Liverpool. Palace remaining in that sixth spot with 14 points, but again, perhaps overachieving. But they travel away to Arsenal next. Meanwhile, City will be home to Aston Villa. And then on to the big match of the weekend, Northwest Derby, Man United at Old Trafford hosting Liverpool Football Club. This we're going to cover all in manager shade, if you will. Current managers and former managers. Heading into the match, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saying, "I'm sure we will bounce back and win the league. It won't be 30 years until the next Premier League that we do win." This quote here coming from courtesy of Goal, but this was all over the place heading into the match.
Yeah, there's an account on Twitter and Instagram, I believe, called Old Takes Exposed, and United fans will hope that in 30 years from now, that account, if it still exists, won't retweet this from Goal and say, "Well, United, where are your titles?"
If Twitter still exists, you said that probably.
Exactly. But that's a bold take, honestly. I mean, it's saying that, yeah, United have been better in recent years, and even though it was a 1-1 result here, sharing in the points, there's no question who's better right now, who's in a better spot right now. And a lot of digs from Liverpool fans saying, "Oh, we gave you the point so Solskjaer stays a bit longer."
Exactly. That was funny.
Saving him, keeping his job, and because they don't believe in him for that long. But VAR, huge in this game.
Again, this was the build-up where Origi was clearly fouled, and then leading to great finish from Rashford. I mean, that is a tough finish, how he put that through. And then the no-goal on Mane where he handed the ball, right? This is the rule that you talked about earlier, where it's clearly that he hits it with his hand right before he finishes past De Gea. Surprise start for De Gea. Obviously, Pogba out. United struggling with a little bit of injuries. But, again, VAR, I think in the first one on Origi is questionable, whether that should have been called or not.
I mean, I think if the referee blows for a foul there's no question that, yeah, that's a foul. But at the same time, there's a bit of an argument that there is no foul there. And ultimately, that was the deciding factor, that the referee's judgment was there's no foul, and VAR was not going to overturn that. And the second one, like we're going to mention, there's no question that was the correct decision. Handball means no goal.
Yep.
As unintentional as it can be, and as poor as Liverpool played, they will get the point after the goal.
This is now the fourth result that they've pulled out of the trash bin after playing poorly. Liverpool looked terrible in the first half. Didn't think they were going to have a shot in this match. United were defending well. Again, to Klopp's point here, they take the point courtesy of Adam Lallana. Hasn't scored in 2+ years for United, for Liverpool, 2.5 years. When he's coming on in the second half, we were watching this match, and it's like, okay, if Lallana is your answer in the second half, do they really have enough depth in midfield? And then literally within 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it was, of us saying that, he comes through.
Scores.
So what do we know?
Exactly.
Clearly not much.
And I think it's interesting the way that people expect this match to be played. That's one of the most interesting things that was talked about is Klopp said, United defend at home against Liverpool. That's disappointing. And Mourinho said, well, he doesn't beat us, so what are you going to do about it? How are you going to... Why would you do something... Exactly. Why would you go out and play at a tempo or at a style that's at a disadvantage to your club? And I think that's what United did. It's not pretty, but at the same time, they're not in a great situation. As a club, you shouldn't overextend your abilities.
Yep. And then similarly, he's talking about Solskjaer here. He's like, I would like a job like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's, where all I have to do is talk about the future and not actually worry about results.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sure there's a lot of pressure being felt by Solskjaer, but again, we've talked about this. It's not down to Solskjaer. I think it's not set up above him where he's getting the players he's going to need in order to make this a 3-year project, right? That's what they've got to do, is just invest in the long term.
And they did that with Klopp, and that's why Klopp is as successful as he is right now, because they invested in that long-term project. And I think that, again, interesting to see how Klopp wants to play a passionate style of play, a lot of attacking. They played 5 at the back at home against Liverpool. I mean, it's not the prettiest thing to say, but you got a point. And at that time, at this time in United's history, they need that point because they're not Their club is not where it used to be, and they have to be realistic with themselves.
And that gives them 10 points from 9 matches to sit them 13th place. Again, it's their worst start ever. Next for them, away to Norwich, where they should probably get the 3.
Oh, yeah.
And then Liverpool have an interesting match, home to Spurs next week. Again, now sitting top of the table still, 6 points clear of Manchester City. Monday night, proper football. Sheffield United home to Arsenal at Bramall Lane. United sitting 9 points, 15th place, just a point behind United. And then Arsenal, 15 points in 5th place. This is an interesting match because Sheffield United aren't very good at home, and Arsenal aren't very good away. Right? This is another one of those. Okay, which one of these is gonna change, or do we end up honors even with a draw? Lacazette looks to be healthy, probably won't start, but Tierney, good. These are quotes from Emery in his pre-match presser where he's saying, look, Ozil has practiced well last couple of weeks. Maybe he's got a shot at starting. Good news for Guendouzi, shortlisted for Golden Boy. He's been a revelation for part of Air Force One.
Leading the vote, as a matter of fact, 13% ahead of Mason Mount's 12% in that vote. Not the two guys you'd say you would have expected probably a couple months ago, but they've both been very good recently. I think that he's been one of the best performers for them.
No question. Certainly outperforming the defense, and he's really been, I think, masking a lot of problems with Luis.
Exactly, yeah. And they'll want to keep up the pressure, keep up their good performances. This is a result you want to win against a newly promoted side, but for Sheffield United, this is a game where if you can win it, it's huge for them.
Yeah.
I mean that's Chris Wilder talks about it. He says, we win this game, it's huge for our club.
And they need home wins. They need home points. So these points would be huge for them at home. They need to get. They got West Ham United away, Burnley at home, and then Spurs and United. So they've got to get these points. But I don't think either of us see it happening.
Yeah, neither of us have that either. Arsenal have been improving in recent weeks. They've had a lot of strong form. And ultimately, I think that they will continue that. I think they'll go, again, a point off of City in second place.
Which is crazy.
Ahead of their Thursday night fixtures, which they do not like to see. They have Vitoria SC in their Thursday match.
At home?
At home, yeah.
Okay.
Versus before they take on Crystal Palace at home as well. It should be. They'll want these points because the more and more tired your squad gets, the more tough the points are to fight for. Your squad's pretty well rested at this point. Less injury issues, as you already mentioned about 2 slides ago. And they'll hope to do well in this one. I think we both see it as a strong result. And worst case scenario, we're both 0-1 or both 1-0. Can't.
We're looking for our first perfect week.
Exactly. That's the best way to say it.
All right, Jack, Conrad, 45. We will come back with a week 10 preview at some point.
Double digits.
Yeah, hard to believe. October coming to a close. Thanksgiving on the way. Holiday fixtures on the way. Maybe we should talk a little bit about those holiday fixtures. There's
a lot of games.
Festive fixtures. I'm thinking back to our trip last year.
Oh, yeah, a lot of really interesting games to come up.
All right, that does it for us. Like, comment, subscribe as always at the 45 on Twitter. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Take care now.